Hi, this is Sarah Meixel with thepigsite.com, and today we're here with Dr. Patrick Webb. He is the Director of Swine Health Programs with the National Pork Board. Thanks for being with us today, Patrick.
Thanks for having me.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about African swine fever. And tell me a little bit about the U.S. and what the U.S. is doing to kind of keep it at bay.
Yeah, so we've been worried about these foreign animal diseases for years. African swine fever is just, kind of the icing on the cake now. And so from a regulatory standpoint, USDA plays a critical role. And immediately when a country, says, yes, we have African swine fever, a lot of rules go into place that help prevent the potential entry of that virus from an infected country into the United States. And so we've seen this happen with China. The rules change a little bit. And so that heightened awareness is important. The change in your regulatory structure is important, or the rules that you follow. And then there's also the things that you need to do at the border. In particular, especially with people traveling from those type of countries, an infected country like China, you have to be able to then target those folks and make sure that they're not bringing anything into the country that would be related to pigs, meat product that potentially could be harboring that virus. And so there's a lot of work that goes on with Customs and Border Protection and USDA Plant Protection and Quarantine to make sure that those things don't make it through. Beagle Brigade, a great tool for doing that as well. But yeah, once a country announces they have it, a lot of things go into place to help mitigate risk.
Very good. And what role do diagnostics play in that?
Well, on the diagnostics front for us, it's critical that if something were to get into the U.S. pig population, that it's identified very, very quickly. So you need awareness, you need producers to be reporting diseases. And if they suspect that they have African swine fever, you got to call a state vet, you've got to call the federal vet, you got to get them on the horn because they'll come out and do an investigation. As part of that investigation, samples are taken. So you're going to take the right sample and you got to run the right test. So when they get to the lab for the official testing, a lot of what goes on for those three diseases, they start with PCR. They got a lot of other tests there too. But the key is that you've got to have a really good test that's very specific and very sensitive because you're trying to say whether a disease is or isn't here. And if it is here, you're going to be doing things that have tremendous consequence to that producer and to animal agriculture and the economy. And if it's not there, you want to make sure that you're sure it's not there because if you miss it, it's an opportunity to spread.
Right. Very good. And what are really, there's huge consequences, right?
Absolutely. These are regulatory diseases. The state and federal animal health officials, the state and animal health officials are in charge.
Right.
And producers play a supporting role. And so the tools that state vets have are setting up regulatory disease control areas around positive cases, and then they have to stop movements. Well, as you know, the pork industry moves a lot of pigs, and so that is a big problem for us if our producers can't get back into business. If I set up at one of these areas, the chances are I'm going to include a lot more producers that don't have the disease than do. And so that becomes very important in the response that we are able to get out and do surveillance as fast as possible. We being regulatory officials may or may not use industry to help depending on the size, but we've got to get samples and we got to get them to the lab. And so you have to have excellent diagnostics. You have to have the right tools there to make sure that you're saying, yep, the disease is here, or yep, the disease isn't. We've been doing a lot of work with USDA on trying to validate oral fluids for our surveillance testing and our response testing, and that's the response testing side's coming along. But then again, that sample, it's a great sample, but you got to have the right diagnostics to handle that sample to get you the right answer that you can trust.
Right, and that would be so much easier, so much more welfare friendly too. That just makes life so much easier for everybody, right?
And the industry's evolved.
Right.
When I graduated vet school in '98, it was on the tail end of the pseudorabies outbreak, or the cleanup of the pseudorabies, and we were out there bleeding.
Right.
Right. The industry has moved away from bleeding. We don't do much bleeding anymore. We do a lot of oral fluid samples. We do some nasal sampling. We've moved to those things that are easier. I think I'm deaf in this left ear just from bleeding pigs for so much that. But we have to evolve.
Right.
We have to evolve our tests. We have to evolve our diagnostics to handle the sample types that the labs are getting today.
Yep.
Labs are getting oral fluids. Labs are getting spleens. Labs are getting lymph nodes. You know, those type of samples, while used for domestic disease detection, really need to be validated for foreign animal disease detection as well. And we've been working with USDA, and they've been making good progress in those areas too. But again, it boils down to you've got to have a test you can trust.
Very good. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all the information.
Thank you very much for having me.
This is Sarah Mikesell reporting.